My name is Gisela Urquia. I graduated from Parkdale High School in Prince George's County Public Schools in 2014. When I first started at Catholic University of America, I quickly realized that I wasn't prepared for college. I suddenly felt more behind than my peers than I ever had inside of my high school classrooms. This made me start wondering why I felt like I wasn't prepared for college. I also wanted to know if I was the only person who graduated from a Prince George's County Public High School and felt that they weren't prepared. So I've been working on this documentary where I've been interviewing past students and a former teacher of Prince George's County Public Schools, trying to find out how they feel about the topic.
State audit of Prince George's County schools. It's found big problems with the graduation rate. More than 30% of graduates in the past 2 years either didn't meet the state requirements for a diploma or they have no documentation to explain why grades were changed to move them through. That audit also found dozens of teachers and staff complaining about fears of retaliation if they did not pass enough children.
Prince George's County stresses too much on numbers. And I feel like that's because this county is always being down-talked on. So I feel like they want numbers to prove themselves in the state of Maryland.
Graduation rate here in Prince George's County is a really big deal because all along it has been the key metric indicating things are getting better here. But this audit casts doubt on all of it.
The gap between high school and college has become so great that so many people nationwide, but definitely in PG County, are just not prepared for that next step.
So I started noticing a lot of differences, right? And maybe it was because I was now in college, but I went from when I left high school, I pretty much got A's and B's on all my papers. But the first set of papers that I wrote for my university, I mean, they were like C's and B's, and I don't get C's a lot, so that was also very hard for me to understand why there was such a big difference. You know, if I left high school taking AP English, so the fact that I couldn't write a paper in college that was going to give me at least a B was also really hard.
I mean, some of that might be a transition from high school to college, but generally your freshman year classes, there really isn't that big of a gap between high school and college, which there shouldn't be, especially taking AP classes. Like, I teach AP classes now, and they're not college classes, but they're geared towards college level and to prepare someone for college. So there really shouldn't be that much of a gap, you would think, between an AP class and a freshman college class. But to have that noticeable, like, I was so much better in high school versus college, and I'm not prepared for this, is just, you know, it's obvious that what you went through in high school is not prepared you for your freshman year, especially in college. That there was like a huge gap in what you were, the standard you were held to in high school versus the standard in college. I do think that Prince George's County does an okay job at preparing their students for college, but there are definitely things that they are lacking, and actually really kind of the school systems, our education system as a whole is kind of lacking.
I realized that I wasn't ready for college, like, the minute I actually, like, kind of started. Because it wasn't a lot, but at the same time, it's like, you're not used to it. In high school, you were used to little stuff. It wasn't taken serious. But in college, it's like you gotta gather up all these points, and if you don't gather enough, it will affect you. And there was a point where I actually did drop out because I just didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. So it was really confusing at that time, and I just had to, you know, just start working, try to find out what I wanted to do, how to do research.
One of the biggest things I think that's lacking in PG County, especially the school system, is that it's just so big, and that because there's 100,000 students and 10,000 teachers and how many ever high schools and middle schools there are, it's just students don't get the individual attention they would at a smaller district. They don't get to see their administrators as much. They don't get to see or get the one-on-one support they would get at a much smaller district, because there are so many students in PG County, and that's not necessarily the county's fault. It's it's just something they have to overcome and work on trying to overcome.
Okay, so I had this one class, it was a trigonometry class, and I went the whole, like half of the year, and the professor didn't know my name. Like, she called me the wrong name a couple times, and I would get calls from school saying I didn't go to class because she would mark me absent because she thought my name was something else.
In like my large classes, of course, there was only one teacher, and like in a class of like 25 plus, you only get so much attention in them, and there were times where like you're trying to get the teacher's attention, but she's over there dealing with some bad kid or a good kid or an average kid, and it was like you can only do so much. So it's like, all right, do I want to learn this today, or you're just like, all right, I'm gonna just be here, write it out, and continue the rest of my day in my other classes as well.
There was times where I had to like share a book, and yeah, that just really sucked. Like being not having, what you need to learn. Like, this is why I'm coming to school. Like, how are you not gonna give me the tools to learn?
I feel like the large classroom sizes really affected my education because I recall like in some classes we'd have like 30, 40 kids, and in those classes, I mean, in my situation, I was always a good student. So I was always one of my teacher's favorite students. I was always on time and whatnot. So I felt like I had that connection, but I definitely, from an outsider's perspective, I can see that group of kids that falls between the average and the people who just disturb the class, they don't have that extra attention or extra help that they need to get from a teacher. So in like some classes that I did experience where it was just like 15 to 20 of us, it was a better, I felt more of a connection with my teachers, and I felt more comfortable to, ask them more questions or come after class and talk to them about anything that I really need help with. Whereas in those other big classes, it was just like, you know what, I don't understand what they're saying. I'm not even gonna bother to raise my hand and ask another question. So let me just shut up and it be what it be.
There were times where students couldn't even let a professor get through the day's lesson, so we'd end up being weeks behind in material. But at the end of the day, I still had exams regardless if we were behind or not, especially when you're taking standardized testing, AP testing, or IB testing. There's no, oh, you couldn't get to that material, so we're just not going to test you on that. You're going to be tested on something whether you know it or not.
When so many students are saying that even at a 2-year school, they're still not prepared to even be at the 2-year school, let alone a 4-year school, that just shows that they really weren't pushed to their highest level when they were in high school or in middle school and elementary. It just shows that there really wasn't a push to push people further and further along to prepare them for the next step, whether it's college, the real world, or whatever.
When I took my placement test, I had to take remedial English and math. When in high school, I ended my senior year with AP English, and I was in advanced math throughout my whole education.
I reached out to a number of school board members and was unsuccessful in being able to meet with them. Those who responded to me never provided a meeting time, and another one directed me to talk to another former student.
I think that someone that didn't enroll themselves in the same activities that I did would not be nearly as prepared as I was for college. Because I was in the International Baccalaureate program, I faced a lot of academic rigor on top of whatever adversities I had to face, whereas whoever was next to me or my peers that didn't have that same academic rigor would have less things to experience that actually replicate what their experience would be like in college.
There needs to be less testing. It can't always just be teaching for the test, because when college, the real life, it's not tests. It's not multiple choice tests. It's not reading a passage and answering a question, writing a short response. It's not what college is like. It's not what the real world is like. Yet that's how students are tested, and that's how they're analyzed, and that's how they're prepared. That's once again not a PG County thing. That's a nationwide thing that our education system's kind of going towards, and it's not necessarily the best for preparing students to be successful in doing adequate research on their own and writing papers in college and how to find information and to make some sort of plan to be in the real world. And unfortunately, our education system's geared towards passing a multiple choice test and writing a short response, and that's just not how the real world is.
I would tell Prince George's County that when you enter high school, the conversation needs to start that same day. Getting ready for in 3.5 years when you start applying to college, you need to be ready.